Hello, Kim Knight here, aka the Kiwi Health Detective. And in this podcast, I want to share the 10 not so subtle signs of stress. So I'm going to go through these 10 signs, and I'd like you to either say yes or no, yes I do this, or no I don't. And the thing is to be really, really honest, okay? The only person we're fooling if we're not honest is ourselves, and then we do ourselves a disservice. So please be honest and don't judge yourself or beat yourself up if you're saying yes a lot, okay? The most important thing is to become aware of the truth of how things are, and then we can make change. So here's the first one. The first clue is if you talk really, really fast. So I'm not talking really, really fast right now, as you've probably noticed. But when people are stressed or their body is in the stress response, they'll probably be talking really like this, and they'll never give me, and they won't break for a pause for anything, and they'll talk this fast. Okay, now that is a sign that the nervous system is really stuck in the stress response. And I come across a lot of people who talk like this. And the interesting thing is, the more I get calm and the more I turn my stress response off, the more difficult I find it to be talking with people who are talking really, really fast, because it just jitters my nervous system. It doesn't like it anymore. And I notice that the less calm I am, the faster I will talk. So stress clue number 2. There's always a feeling of there's never enough time. I just have too many things, too much on my to-do list, and I never get it done. And I have to rush around all the time. I can't do things in a calm, sort of cool, collected manner. Now, I pondered on this for a long time and finally came to my own conclusion of why this is. And this is my take on it. When our body goes into the stress response, because it thinks it's in an emergency, it's in danger, it's gone into the fight-flight response, and it needs to get out of danger in order to preserve life, literally, then usually if we're in a real danger, then we have to do it very, very quickly, right? So if you suddenly notice your house is on fire, you're going to have to run out pretty damn quickly. Or if you're just about to walk off, to step off the curb, and you notice that a bus is coming towards you at 60 kilometers an hour, then you're going to have to move pretty quickly perhaps to get out of the way of that bus. And so our body knows that in order to implement the stress response and avert the danger, we may have to act very, very quickly. And so my take on this is that the body gets stuck in this place of thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to do everything now, and I've got to do it really, really quickly. Because obviously also if we're going to get out of danger, and that danger is present right now, then we have to take action right now. There is no time to wait. And so the body is constantly stuck in this feeling of there's never enough time, and I can't slow down. And paradoxically, when we do get into a calm, relaxed state, we will find there is a lot more time, and we will be much clearer and able to think and prioritize and plan and schedule our day. And the only difference is we have gone into a different state. We've gone into a different state of being. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about in a minute, the being versus doing. But this is so fascinating, because literally just by training ourselves to become more calm and relaxed, we find we have more time and we can get things done in a much more productive way. The third clue is that we may find ourselves on emotional roller coasters. If we're in a really calm state, our emotions are also going to be, or much more likely to be, calm. But if our body is continually stressed, where our organs, where the emotions are literally generated from, so for example, anger comes from the liver, and worry affects the spleen, sadness is in the lungs, fear affects the kidneys. Our organs are just, because they're not in such a good physiological state, they're going to be affected much more by emotions. So it's a bit of a vicious circle. The more emotional we are, the more stress we'll be, and the more stress we'll be, the more emotional we will be. The fourth clue is we may find ourselves eating really fast and not chewing properly and eating while we're doing other things. So we don't sit down, purposefully and take 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is to just literally sit and eat our food and only focus on our food. We'll be doing something else. And a lot of people have a habit of either eating on the run, eating on the car as you drive to work, eating at your desk, etc., etc. Now the problem is our body needs, and our digestive system needs respect for when we eat. It needs us to respect what we're putting in our body, how we put it in our body, when we put it in our body, even if we put it in our body. And if we really want our digestion to be working well, then one of the things that we can best do for ourselves is to only eat when we're eating. And I remember a TCM practitioner saying to me once, when you're eating, eat. When you're walking, walk. When you're working, work. In other words, just focus on the one thing that you're doing at that time. But as far as eating is concerned, this is very, very important, because in order for our body to digest our food properly, the digestive system needs to be in a calm state. But if we're really stressed and the stress response is turned on, the body has actually half turned off the digestive system process and it can't do its job properly. So we have to learn how to eat in a very calm manner. And that's a whole topic for a whole other program which I have on dietary hygiene. So stress clue number 5, when your mind just doesn't stop. It just thinks and thinks and thinks. There's no gap between thinking, and in Qigong we call it the monkey mind. So if you find that you have incessant, non-stop thoughts and thinking going on and you can't switch off your brain, as people tend to say, then that will be a sign that your nervous system is oversensitized, and that very likely that the stress response is turned on at some level. Because when we actually really experience true relaxation, our mind will be very, very calm and very, very still. And that doesn't mean it can't operate. It doesn't mean that we can't come up with creative ideas. In fact, we tend to come up with even better and creative ideas and be able to tap much more into our intuition. So do you have a mind that just doesn't seem to switch off? Stress clue number 6 is we will have difficulty sleeping. So we may have difficulty falling asleep, or difficulty staying asleep, or maybe difficulty waking up after not sleeping well. And this is because the whole system is oversensitized and on alert, and there's just not enough relaxation at a mental, physical level for the body to fall asleep. And so we'll be thinking and thinking, and just the body's just not in a normal and good rhythm. What is called our circadian rhythm is disturbed, and we can't sleep properly. The 7th clue is we may well have digestive issues. And I've already touched on that slightly before, talking about the rushed eating. But if we are stressed, our digestive system is half switched off and not able to do its job properly. And maybe the acid-alkaline balance will be out of balance, and the different organs which have to secrete different juices will not be able to do their job properly. And so we may experience IBS or constipation or diarrhea or bloating or tension. And that will be a sign that our digestive system is inflamed and out of balance. The 8th clue is we may find that we are impatient and irritable and short-tempered. And that is a sure sign that we are stressed and out of balance. And often we can find in TCM there's often too much heat in the chest, which makes us sort of feel hot and flustered. So if you're finding that you often feel impatient and irritable, then that may be a clue that your body is in the stress response. Clue number 9 is people who are stressed will often be doaholics and workaholics and busyaholics. In other words, they're just always doing and not enough being. So just constantly from the time they get up in the morning to the time they go to bed, they'll just literally be filling every space in their day with things to do. Now the interesting thing is we live in a universe, in Qigong terms, we live in a universe of yin and yang. Yin is stillness and yang is activity. And ideally we need a balance of the two. Now obviously when we're asleep, in theory, if we're sleeping well, then that will be a substantial chunk of our yin time, right? But if you look at it that we have 24 hours in a day, we could say that we have 8 hours sleep. That's a good average amount, for sleep. 8 hours work. Now that would be a good, healthy, balanced amount of work. In other words, we could do less, but not really more. And then 8 hours, there's still 8 hours. So what are we going to do in that 8 hours? That should be our fun time, our relaxation time, our downtime, time to have satisfaction and contentment and fun. Now, workaholics and doaholics will probably use most of those 8 hours to either be working still or to be maybe doing chores and things that need to be done that aren't necessarily fun. And what is really interesting about the body is that we need to have fun, and we need to have things that bring us satisfaction and enjoyment. And if we don't, then our body will also get very annoyed and frustrated and stressed because we're just driving ourselves too hard, and we're like our own slave driver. And stress clue number 10 is that we just can't stop and be. We just have to do all the time. And you may have heard the phrase, we are a human being, not a human doing. But most people in our Western society are definitely human doings. And I would say I'm still a recovering human doing. One of the reasons that I became ill and was unable to work for 10 years was because I was just driving myself too hard, and in many regards. And so I've really had to learn how to change work-life balance and to de-stress and a lot of other things. Often deal with emotions is a big one, in order to restore balance. So how did you do with these questions? How many did you say yes to? And again, it's good to be honest and just recognize the truth of how things are.